We're talking SEC football here on Southeastern 14. I'm Chase Robinson, and we're going to dive into some Georgia Bulldogs football today. Take a look at their three biggest games in SEC play coming up in 2024. But first, let's talk about Bet Online. They are your number one source for all of your summer sports this season, from MLB to golf, NBA, and NHL. All the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. You can get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head over to the website or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet online, where the game starts. So here we are getting ready for the 2024 season. Taking a look at all these schedules and looking at the Georgia Bulldogs schedule and pulled out the three biggest games I think are on the schedule for the Bulldogs. So you think back to last year, they didn't make the college football playoff. They lost the SEC championship to the Alabama Crimson Tide. So I think they are more ready for this 2024 season than you could imagine. I mean, I think they'll most likely be preseason number 1 or 2. I mean, they're gonna be up there. But they do have a tough schedule. You enter a new era of the SEC with no divisions. You enter a new era of college football. You got the 12-team playoff. Several games for Georgia I think are going to be huge this year, but I've picked out three that I think are biggest for the Dogs here in 2024. The first one happens on September the 28th, and that is when Georgia heads to Tuscaloosa to take on the Alabama Crimson Tide. This will be the second SEC game for Georgia in 24. They'll take on Kentucky on September the 14th. They'll have a bye week, and then this game in Tuscaloosa. So, I mean, there's no lie. We've seen some great matchups with Georgia and Alabama over the years. You look back since 2012, they've played 8 times. 6 of those were either SEC championship games or college football playoff games, national championships. 2015 and 2020 were regular season games. Before that, you have to go back to the 2007 and 2008 seasons when they had a home and home in Nick Saban's first 2 years at Alabama. So it's a matchup we have not seen in the regular season much, just because Georgia's been in the East, Alabama's been in the West. You know, it's been a postseason game, but I'm excited that we're going to see this as a regular season game this year. And I think it's going to make it special, one, because it'll be Kalen DeBoer's first SEC game at Alabama, and two, just based off the history of these two teams. Obviously, last year, Alabama defeated Georgia in the SEC championship, and Georgia, I'm sure, has that on their mind, and they will heading into this game. But based on the talent on both teams, I think this could be a really fun game, a really good game. And anytime these two teams get together, I think you can assure that it's going to be entertaining. And I think that's going to be no different this year. And I think Georgia, again, is going to be one of the top 2 teams in the country. I think they'll be favored in just about every game that they play. But I think this could be a fun game. I think this could be entertaining as Georgia heads over to Tuscaloosa. And you got to know the Alabama faithful is going to pack out Bryant-Denny Stadium for this one. Because, again, this is not a matchup we've seen a lot in the regular season over the years. So I think Georgia going to Alabama on the 28th of September is going to be a huge matchup. The second biggest game, I think, for the Georgia Bulldogs this year is their trip to Austin, Texas on the 19th of October. I really am excited about this game. I think you could be watching the 2 of the best SEC teams, or the 2 best SEC teams, and perhaps 2 of the best teams in the country when you watch this game. You think about the player matchups, the talent that Georgia has, the guys that Texas has, both just outstanding players on both sides of the ball. I think this could make this to be a really fun game. And again, like we talked about with Alabama and with Georgia going to Alabama, I think Georgia and Texas, I'm so glad we're seeing this in a regular season game as well. And I think this very well could be a postseason game as well. I mean, this may not be the only 2 times or the only times that these 2 teams meet in 2024 is this regular season game. But it being in Austin, I think makes it tough on the Bulldogs, as they're going to have to go to Texas to play a team who is going to try to make a stand here in their first year in the SEC. And I think this is a great team, a well-coached team, as Steve Sarkisian. And so I think it's going to be a big game for Georgia, as they will have to go on the road to Austin, Texas, take on the Longhorns in 2024. And the third biggest game, I think, on the schedule for Georgia this year is when they make the trip over to Oxford, Mississippi to take on the Ole Miss Rebels. A lot of high expectations on Ole Miss this year. And, I mean, obviously, we'll have to wait and see how it plays out at the field, but I think those are good expectations. I think Ole Miss is a playoff team. I really do, coming up this year. And this is a game you have to imagine Ole Miss has circled already, saying, we want a shot at the Bulldogs on our home field. Let's prove we're legit by going out and winning this game. This is a November game, so again, a lot can happen leading up to this game. But right now, in theory, on paper, I think this could be a really fun game for both of these teams. And you got to imagine Ole Miss's offense is going to be high-powered, quick this year. I think they're putting the pieces together on defense to be good defensively as well. But I think this Georgia at Ole Miss game could be a really fun one as well for the Bulldogs and the Rebels. And there's some tough games on this schedule for Georgia. And like I said earlier, I think they're going to be favored in every game that they play because they are one of the best teams in the country. It wouldn't surprise me if Georgia wins the national championship this year. It really doesn't. That's what kind of team Kirby has this year, and they're on a mission to prove that. But I do think there's some tough games along the way. Pulled out 3 here, and it's 3 road trips for Georgia, and that's 3 tough places to play: Alabama, Texas, and Ole Miss. So I think this could be a fun year for the Georgia Bulldogs, but those are the 3 biggest games that I see as I look up and down the Georgia football schedule. But hey, Kirby Smart is going to have the boys ready to go coming up here in 2024. We've got you covered all things SEC football, basketball, baseball. Subscribe to our channel. You can like this video, comment on it, let us know what you think. Maybe you have 3 different opponents you think the 3 biggest games for Georgia are. Drop that in the comments. Would love to see those. But again, share it with your friends and spread the word about Southeastern 14 as we cover SEC football and basketball and baseball daily right here on YouTube.